Welcome in, latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton, and our great friend Stephen Lassan, senior editor over at Athlon Sports, is back to make his predictions for the weekend in the SEC. Stephen, how you doing, my friend?
Mike, I'm fired up. Another great weekend of college football coming up. It's Wednesday, so Saturday's coming up fast. Looking forward to just another great slate of games. Some big-time matchups in the non-con. Also, love seeing conference play start to pop up more. So, man, let's break this down. I think it's going to be a fascinating weekend across the conference.
No doubt, and I just want to recap, Stephen. I don't think I showed this on our Monday evening show, but hey, the cousins are doing better than any of us. Stephen, cousin Shane, and I tied with, we've got 36 games accurately, but the cousins have gotten 38, and the cousins led the way last week. But Stephen, at least you weren't as bad as cousin Shane. So again, we're getting competitive here. We're 3 weeks in, and we're all tied. So before we get into all this, how confident are you in your upcoming projections for this weekend?
First of all, I'm the only idiot who picked Notre Dame last week. I mean, jeez, man, I got to do better this week. I feel pretty confident in the picks this week, Mike. I think it's interesting. Like we're getting to the end of those one-sided non-conference games, so I'm kind of glad to get those kind of out of the way. The big non-conference game has lost a little bit of luster, and of course there are some injury situations kind of impacting some of the conference games. So, some unknowns, but I feel good about winners. Spreads, locks, that might be a different story.
Right. So, again, before we get into it, don't forget to check out our presenting sponsor, MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is the website. Put in that promo code SEC. When you put in that initial deposit, you can see it on the bottom of the screen there. SEC is the promo code. They give you a $500 risk-free wager right off the bat if it's your initial deposit. What's that mean? It means you could put up to $500 into an account. If you win that money, boom, take it out. See ya. It's yours. If you get it wrong, let's say you put $200 in and you bet on Auburn, but Oklahoma wins, then they give you that $200 right back, and you get to keep playing. So go check them out over at MyBookie. Steven's about to give us his predictions, but before we do that, PrizePicks. We're back for another season with PrizePicks daily fantasy sports. So go check them out. PrizePicks.com. Promo code SEC. Same promo code there. You play 5, you get 50 over at PrizePicks. And what is PrizePicks? They have player projections for each game, and you all you have to do is pick more than or less than, and you can combine it. The more selections you make, the more money you can win over at PrizePicks. And I love the fact, Stephen, you don't even have to get them all right. Like last week, Stephen went 6-1 on his PrizePicks. You don't have to get them all right. But if you get that many correct and you have one incorrect, you're still a winner over at PrizePicks. So, Stephen, this week, are you ready? Man, please tell me you're going to get even more than 6 this week.
I hope so, my friend. We've done well in the PrizePicks front. We may be needing some work in the picks overall, but we're doing well in the PrizePicks. We're going to try and win the cousins some money. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I know we kind of talked before the show, and there's some ones I think we're in agreement on. So I'll be interested to see your selections later this week too, see if we agree on all of them.
All right. So where are you going for your most confident PrizePicks selection of the week?
Let's start on passing yards, and let's go to Oklahoma and Auburn. I'm taking John Mateer, 253.5. Give me the more than side of this. I think Oklahoma may have some trouble running the ball against Auburn, and I think just looking at the way these games have played out this season with Mateer and the passing yards, and certainly the way Auburn defended the pass against South Alabama and Baylor, there are going to be some opportunities there. So I think John Mateer, 253.5 more than is a definite no-brainer on my board this week. And Mike, I am also going to tandem that with a John Mateer rushing touchdown. He's at 0.5. Give me the more than side of that. And also I'm tandeming that with a John Mateer passing touchdown, 0.5. Give me the more than side.
Whoa, buddy. So here's the problem with leading with the PrizePicks. you may tip your hand with who you like in the game, but basically you love John Mateer to have himself what a heck of a Saturday. It sounds like in Norman.
I do, because I think that we'll talk about this game, and I know we'll kind of get deeper. I do think both these teams are kind of going to go as the quarterback goes, and I think just look at the way Auburn is probably going to defend Oklahoma. We know questions about Oklahoma's front. There could be a lot of rushing. There could be a lot of big plays from Mateer. So low scoring game, but if they win this game, it's going to be on Mateer, and I'm banking on him trying to pad that Heisman resume on Saturday.
Well, I believe the Sooners agree with every one of your John Mateer Prize Picks selections. So who you got next on the Prize Picks?
Mike, let's stay in that same game, and let's take Jackson Arnold. He is 0.5 on the interceptions. He hasn't thrown one this year. I think he'll throw one on Saturday. Give me the more than side for a Jackson Arnold interception there. Also on this game, I will also take a gamble here. I'm going to take Eric Singleton. He is 50.5 in receiving yards. I'm going to take the more than side here. And I think one of the challenges for Oklahoma in this game is that this is the best passing offense that they played. Michigan got a good quarterback in Bryce Underwood. Don't think they have the receivers. I think Auburn's receivers will test them. So I actually like Eric Singleton to go more than that 50.5 in receiving. And I'm also going to take Jackson Arnold to throw one interception on Saturday.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah. Now we're going to talk a ton about this game, but is there a chance that, and it could be either one, really, Stephen, that they get exposed on Saturday? And I'm not saying like they're going to be a garbage team or anything like that, but just given who they faced and Auburn's schedule, they had the one road trip to Baylor, Oklahoma's schedule. They did have a road trip to Temple, but who cares? And then, for all we know, Michigan is like an 8-4 type team. Is it possible that one of these teams gets exposed on Saturday?
I think that's a possibility, and I think it's a bigger picture thing in college football right now because we've got 3 weeks of data, and some teams have played 4 games because of the week 0 thing. I think we're still figuring out some of these teams, and kind of to your point, like we're high on Michigan. Baylor was picked as a preseason favorite, but do we know that for sure? And like Michigan plays Nebraska on Saturday. Like, what if they go on the road and lose? Our perception of Michigan probably changes. And we're still seeing a lot of different matchups. Like, you've played so many one-sided opponents. Like, there's some areas that could get exposed against better teams. So I think we're in for a close game, but it would not stun me if there are some of these issues. Maybe it's Oklahoma's offensive line. Maybe Auburn's secondary is actually a bigger deal than just playing a good Baylor passing game. So that's what I'm eager to find out, is kind of like collecting some data this week on some of these teams.
Right. All right. So any other Prize Pick selections that you got for us?
I'll give you one more from Oklahoma Auburn. I'm going to take Javante Barnes. He's at 0.5 on the rushing touchdowns. Just give me the less than side. I think if they score a rushing touchdown, it's Blaylock or Mateer. On the Florida-Miami game, Mike, I got a few plays for you here. Let's go with DJ Lagway, rushing touchdown, less than. So basically, you're taking him to score no rushing touchdowns. He does not have a rushing touchdown this year. He also did not score one last year. I'm not sure that's changing against Miami's defense on Saturday. So less than on the rushing touchdowns for DJ Lagway. On passing touchdowns, give me DJ Lagway to get one. So it's 0.5 over at PrizePicks. Hit the more than on that one. And I will also take Carson Beck. He is at 1.5. You just need him to throw 2. He's thrown 2 in every game this year. Give me Carson Beck more than.
Now, this isn't an option, but appreciate the question from Brodo. Over under 3 interceptions for Lagway.
Mike, it's at PrizePicks has it at 0.5. So you know what my last play of the week is going to be in PrizePicks?
Oh, no.
Smash the more than. Thinking to throw 1 this week.
Oh, you DJ haters. You've always been against him. But no, I get it. I get it. After last week, that's a fair question from Brodo, and that is a fair PrizePick selection from you, Stephen. I can't even argue against it. This is like one of the toughest teams to defend moving forward. You know what?
So I have seen that some other analysts say this. They say that this test for Florida at Miami is tougher than LSU. Like basically, Miami's a better team than LSU. Not sure I would go there yet, but it's out there. And I think that's what's the concerning thing if you're Florida is the defense for Miami is much better than it was last year. You just had this rough showing. 2 weeks in a row, the offense has been quiet. A breakout performance would be pretty surprising on Saturday for Florida's
Yeah.
offense.
All right, Stephen, let's get into it. Let's delay no longer. One game on the slate does not have a over-under or an official point spread, and that's LSU hosting Southeast Louisiana, 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central on the SEC Network. Of course, we're picking LSU to win this game, but what'll be the storylines, and if you just could give us a prediction, regardless of the fact that there is no spread here.
Mike, I think the biggest thing for LSU in this game is, looking ahead, you get Ole Miss on September 27th. And this game kind of falls into the perfect spot. You just beat Florida. You've got Ole Miss coming up. You've got some injuries. It's a chance to get some guys healthy. I know they want to play Garrett Nussmeier. They're worried about Russ getting the offense going. I totally understand that. But given his injury situation, I would rather have him for September 27th when you play Ole Miss. So I am very curious to see how long he plays. All that to say, like, that's the most interesting thing here is like, how fast is LSU starters in and out? Because you just want to win this game and get to Ole Miss. So I like LSU 48-3, easy win for Brian Kelly and the Tigers this week.
How many rushing yards is it going to take you to be concerned about LSU? Yeah, considering that exactly what you just said. I mean, we very likely won't have the starting offensive line in this game for the duration. We likely won't have, our key running backs even in the game for the duration. But is there just a ballpark number to where even if it's like 120 yards and you're like, we should be doing more than that. Is there a number to where you'd look 4 games into the season and be like, I don't know if LSU is going to be much better than what they have displayed rushing the football?
It's a great question. I think certainly under 100 would be concerning against an FCS team. I think in a game like this, you'd like to at least to see maybe like 150 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Last year when they played an FCS team, they had 68. So they only crossed the 150 mark one time, and that was against South Alabama last year. Been 128 or less in every game this year. I think this is a good opportunity for, number one, if you want to build some confidence for Nussmeier, just get him in for quarter and a half and get him out, get Van Buren some work. It's perfect. But I also think it could be a good opportunity to work on the run game too, like get your offensive lineman live action doing that. So I'd just kind of set the bar at 150. I would like to see this team run the ball better, especially as this team gets into more SEC play.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, one team that better look better, Steven. Otherwise, you may not be welcome back here. How about Sam Houston at Texas? Mighty Texas. Texas favored by 40.5 points. Good night. The over-unders was 51.5, so almost exclusively Texas here. 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, ESPN Plus. Certainly you like Texas in here, but by how much? And is Arch going to bounce back this week?
He better, Mike, or the panic meter will be set at 10 and off the charts at this point, because this is the last opportunity for Texas to tune things up before they play Florida in a few weeks. And certainly Florida has its issues, but one side of the ball they are not having issues on is defense, and thinking ahead to Oklahoma, thinking ahead to Georgia and Texas A&M. Texas really needs to get this going offensively. So I would like to see Texas come out, get Arch Manning, and get the offense to score on multiple drives, not this inconsistency, the booing at home. You don't want to go into the off week like that. Chance to build momentum. That's the storyline here for Texas. Old SEC friend Phil Longo, of course, is the coach at Sam Houston. They had a lot of turnover on defense, so it should be a good game for Arch Manning and company. I like Texas to win this game easily. I got it 48-7, and they better win it by that or more, because otherwise I'm going to be very concerned about Texas going into the off week.
Yeah. Oof, man. But basically everything I said about LSU running game, that's kind of how I feel about Texas in the passing game. But maybe they just need more time, Steve. Maybe that's it. And again, they'll have the bye week to figure it out. But this is the final opportunity to get it all together. You know, I know they don't have a gauntlet, but they got 8 consecutive conference games coming up. So, you know, we can make all the jokes. We can say all this, that, and the other. But if they play on offense like they did against San Jose and UTEP, they're losing multiple conference games. And I don't even think that's a bold statement. Do you?
That is very fair. Not only are they going to lose conference games, they won't make the playoff. I mean, right now they have probably at least one more mulligan, maybe 2, given how good Ohio State is. So if you lost to the number 1 team in the country by 7 points, I think the committee would give Texas a lot of credit for that. But they're not beating Oklahoma, and they're not beating, Georgia with this kind of offense right now. Defensively, not a ton
I don't know
of
if they could beat Vanderbilt with this offense.
I was going to say, like, Georgia and Oklahoma are too. You start looking at the way A&M can score points, and granted, Texas defense is a national championship caliber defense, but they've got to get this offense going. Another dud this week, I mean, I think would raise a lot of questions. I mean, I think the pressure certainly has maybe gotten to this group a little bit. I know they were trying to kind of force some targets to Ryan Wingo last week. He needs to be more involved. But also, you can just go down the offense, like whether it's the rushing attack, whether it's quarterback play, receivers, offensive line. Like every part of this group right now has got to play, X amount of percent better if they're going to be able to go on the road and win some of these SEC games coming up.
Mm-hmm. All right, Steven, how about this matchup? Dun, 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 dun. Where's the graphic? We got Mississippi State, red hot Mississippi State, hosting Northern Illinois. The Bulldogs favored by 21.5 points at home. Over-unders 49.5. This game kicks off at 4:15 Eastern, 3:15 Central on the SEC Network. Does Mississippi State get to 4-0?
You know it, Mike. Mississippi State is going to 4-0. They're going to move one step closer to bowl eligibility. I will say Northern Illinois has been a bit of a giant killer at times. They beat Notre Dame last year. They got some other wins against power conference opponents over the last, 5 to 10 years. So they are dangerous. The tricky thing about this team is they've played only 2 games. They've played Holy Cross and they've played Maryland. They lost to Maryland. To be honest with you, I don't think Maryland's very good. And they almost lost to Holy Cross. Coming into the season, they were kind of a mid-pack team in the MAC. They weren't considered one of the favorites because basically they turned over their starting lineup. But what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to turn this into an ugly, low possession style game. They love to run the ball. They've got a good set of running backs in the MAC. They're going to try to come into Starkville and just say, we're just going to play keep away. We're going to keep Blake Shapen on the sidelines and just try to keep this into like 4 or 5 possessions each half and give them a chance to win. I think that's hard to ask because Mississippi State's defense is a lot better this year. And I think the danger is you get stops if you're Mississippi State. Shapen and these receivers are putting up some big plays and quickly they're out of the game. So I think as long as Mississippi State plays the way it wants to, they should be fine here. And in fact, I think they do. I think they win 45-13. I think Mississippi State rolls and gets to 4-0.
Man, we have officially turned the corner in Starkville, if that's what we're doing, Stephen. I mean, this is a game last season I would have been terrified that State couldn't handle, but this is a new look. I think Jeff Lebby's got it rolling. Give us all the confidence in the world with Tennessee coming to Starkville. All of a sudden, that is heck, that's a marquee game next week. I mean, and that's not even I don't even think that's like a joke or anything.
Not at all. Remember when you and I talked a few weeks ago about how concerned Tennessee should be with that trip to Starkville?
Yeah.
And I think some were skeptic. I was like, yeah, I'd be worried. Well, Mississippi State is looking pretty tough at home with a much improved defense and, of course, all the offensive firepower. And just thinking about a path to a bowl game if you're Mississippi State, it starts by beating Northern Illinois. I think you got to get Tennessee on the 27th, and then I think you can maybe find a game in there somewhere. So, like what we've seen out of Mississippi State so far, and of course, shout out to our guy Coleman Hutzler doing good things on the defense this year.
SEC Coordinator of the Year.
Right.
All right. Speaking of them Vols, shout out. They're hosting UAB this weekend. Stephen, number 15, Tennessee, just a 39.5-point favorite. The over-under, 69.5 total points. This game kicks off 12:45 Eastern, 11:45 a.m. on the 11:45 a.m. On the SEC network. How bad are them Vols gonna whip old Trent Dilfer and company?
I'm getting some JP Sports vibes by this game kicking off just before noon. Kind of a sleepy game for Tennessee, Mike. But I think Tennessee takes care of business here against UAB. And in fact, I think it should be an easy victory. Like you mentioned, Trent Dilfer, the head coach here for UAB, very much on the hot seat. One thing they do well, old SEC friend Jalen Kitna is the starting quarterback at UAB. And they
was that the guy that was at Florida for a minute?
Yes.
Was that like Dan Mullen year 2? How the hell is he still in college football?
That's a great question. He can actually chuck it around. They've got some good receivers, so at least they can move the ball through the air. The problem is, just to be blunt, their defense sucks. I mean, they struggled in week 1 against an FCS team. You name it, rush defense, pass defense, it's bad. I say all that to say Tennessee and Joey Aguilar should really be able to run it up here. So Tennessee is going to take out all of its frustration from the Georgia loss. Tennessee can maybe get some guys healthy with the SEC games coming up. So I like Joey Aguilar to have a huge day, and Tennessee wins 52-17.
Ooh, anything at all that you're curious to see from Tennessee's defense? Not that this game will be like a measuring stick for what's to come, but people are starting to get a little bit concerned. I'm seeing a lot of blame on Tim Banks for giving up the 4th and 6, for giving up the 2-point conversion, to giving up a lot of production. The old gunner who was largely unproven. So what, if anything, will you be looking for from Tennessee's defense in this matchup to say, okay, maybe they're taking some steps forward?
How about how the secondary plays? And you may think that's kind of silly against UAB, but UAB's averaging over 300 passing yards a game. And I think they do. Kitna's one of the better quarterbacks in the American. They've got good receivers too. And I think given the injuries at corner for Tennessee, containing this passing attack and not allowing them to have a big day, not allow them to make this a game in the second half, would be kind of a step in the right direction. Also would be good, I think, to see, thinking ahead a little bit into SEC play, you need depth. I'd like to see some of those guys, whoever it is on the second group, come in, rotate early, pop, get some valuable experience, because you might need some depth down the stretch, especially up front, and still maybe even in the secondary until you can get Jermon McCoy back and the others for maybe Alabama, Oklahoma, and even later in the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, those are the type of things I'll be looking for, because certainly I would imagine this is not going to be a super competitive game in the second half. But if it is, oh, buddy, you might have to get Shane on for an emergency second half,
Yeah, I think cousin Shane will be dipping into the Tennessee Legends early. If he is, that's a problem. And UAB did give was it Arkansas kind of a little bit of a battle last year. So I wouldn't just, if I'm Tennessee, I think you got to take their passing game seriously. But I think Aguilar and company can really light up this UAB defense.
Well, speaking of a matchup from last year, Stephen, we're redoing it this year. Shout out the Red Hot Commodores, number 20 in the country, Vanderbilt, hosting Georgia State, which got them last year in Atlanta, but it ain't going to happen this year, is it, Steven? The Commodores favored by 27.5 points, over-unders 53.5. This game kicks off 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ESPN. Who the you got winning this one?
So, Mike, I don't think we're getting 63-7. That's the score that Ole Miss beat Georgia State earlier this year. But I do think we're getting Vanderbilt revenge. So last year's game, of course, Georgia State pulling off the big upset. I don't think we're going to get that. I think Vanderbilt takes care of business here. Different, I think, totally different team. Certainly, anytime you come off of that SEC win on the road, you come back, it's hard to get focused for a bad Georgia State team. Maybe there's some early sluggish kind of play from Vanderbilt. I don't think it lasts, though. I think revenge. I think Vanderbilt's just a better team. And frankly, a lot of the matchups just benefit Vanderbilt here. Georgia State, of course, they lost earlier this season bad to, Ole Miss. You look at the rest of their schedule, they lost to Memphis. They only beat Murray State by 16. So this is one of the bottom 20 to 30 teams in college football right now. If Georgia State wins, it probably means TJ Finley had a huge day. I don't think that's happening, though. Diego Pavia is not going to let Vanderbilt lose to Georgia State twice. So give me Vanderbilt 45, Georgia State 13.
My only concern, and again, it certainly could be that. My concern would be the style that Vanderbilt, I think, prefers to play. Now, I've been giving them all the credit in the world because they got these weapons, and I think they showcased that quite frankly, they've showcased it all season, but we got to see a little bit of that last week against the Gamecocks. But I think Vanderbilt, at their core, they want to be methodical. They want to limit your possessions and just beat you 28-0, and you touch the ball 4 times. You know what I mean? So, can they score a ton on a team of this caliber like Georgia State? Certainly, but I almost feel like it'll be let's handle business. Let's just whip them, like 35-3 or something like that. I could even see that, but heck, I guess that'd be covering. But I'm a little concerned that Georgia State, maybe it's even a backdoor, but maybe they cover the 4 touchdown spread.
I could see that. And one of the reasons I was confident in sort of bumping up the Vanderbilt total was the fact that Charleston, they scored 45 on Charleston Southern, 44 on Virginia Tech, and 31 on South Carolina. So to your point, I could see maybe like 34-0, 34-3. So 40 plus points might be aggressive, but Vanderbilt could also be trying to send a message here in the revenge factor too.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about this one, Stephen? Now, this could be our first competitive game here of the day, nationally televised and all. Arkansas going on the road to Memphis. How about that? Arkansas, 7.5 point favorite in the Liberty Bowl, over under 63.5. Love those high over under totals because it indicates we could have some fun in this one. Noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, nationally televised on ABC. And how about this? I mean, this means nothing for these matchups, but I just find it kind of fun. Memphis leads the all-time series 3-2. Of course, Arkansas has won the last 2, so surely they'll even this up on Saturday. But if not, buddy, that'd be bad news for old Sam Pittman and company if he can't beat lowly Memphis, even though I know they're not really lowly, but they are by SEC standards.
I think the tricky thing about this game is figuring out just how good Memphis is. And they're getting a lot of respect from the odds makers, being only a 7-point underdog here. Just considering what they lost from last year, virtually a significant roster turnover off a team that won double-digit games. They've beaten Chattanooga, they beat Georgia State, and they beat Troy, who lost its starting quarterback early in the game. So haven't played a gauntlet so far. I think what worries me is Memphis can run the ball, especially with Brendan Lewis, their starting quarterback. And I think back to last week's game for Arkansas and watching Trinidad Chambliss run. Brendan Lewis can run too. And I think you get into that game of how do you defend the rushing from the quarterback, the mobility. I don't think Memphis, certainly they have not done it this year to where they're as dynamic in the passing game as they were in previous seasons. So we don't really know how good this Memphis team is, but we do know they can run the ball. And I think that's kind of where the style is going to be. They're going to try to run the ball, maybe try to shorten it, try to keep Talon Green on the sidelines. So the question for me is, does Arkansas have to score every time they touch the ball, or can they get enough defensive stops? Because I think if Memphis is playing catch up, this one's not close. I think if Memphis gets its run game going, Lewis creates some problems on the ground, this one's close in the fourth quarter. I'm gonna take Memphis to basically get a cover here, but I like Arkansas to win. I think it's 34-27. So Memphis wins some battles, but in the end, Memphis has no answer for Talon Green. So give me Arkansas 34-27.
Now, let me ask you this, Stephen, because I think, and I've heard Lane Kiffin, I mean, he pretty much went out there and said it. Last week, I think the game plan, and I think it was the right game plan, was for Arkansas's defense to kind of sell out against the run. They're not going to let Keelan Lacey and the Rebels run all over Trinidad, even run all over them. They're going to force Trinidad to beat him with his arm, and heck, he did it. So you could, in hindsight, say, well, that was stupid because he did it. But I certainly would not have predicted, and I don't think even an Ole Miss fan, if they were being honest with themselves, would have said, yeah, Trinidad's going to throw for 353 yards and have 3 touchdowns in a big conference game. So that was likely the game plan for Arkansas. So I would imagine it'll be similar this week to where they'll say, okay, Memphis is good at rushing. Let's sell out against the run. Let's force Memphis quarterback to beat us with his arm. Is he capable of doing that if that is the strategy by the Arkansas defense? What's your thoughts?
Great question. So really in the weeds analysis here. Brendan Lewis played at Colorado. He was not very good, to be honest with you. But last year, he was significantly better at Nevada. So he improved. I think he was 4th in the Mountain West in quarterback rating. Wasn't a great year for quarterbacks in the Mountain West as well. What I'm getting at is I think if you watched him at Colorado to Nevada to now, I think he's a much better passer. And I think Memphis's coaching staff does a good job of kind of deploying his talents. And they do have weapons at receiver. They just turned them all over from last year. And they've got a couple running backs that are capable too. So I think if Arkansas wants to win this game, I think it's exactly that. Like you just say, if you beat us through the air, tip your cap. But I think you got to stop the run. And I think it's going to be a lot of Talon Green, but man, he's been great so far. And if they can get ahead, I think that's bad news for Memphis.
Right. And I may just be answering my question here, Stephen, but how many points do you think it's going to take for Memphis to pull off this upset? Because given what we've seen of Talon Green, Mike Washington, and this Bobby Petrino offense, they are red hot. They're on fire. Arguably the most efficient offense in the SEC after 3 weeks. Again, defense, different story. But I can't imagine Talon Green and company are going to score less than 30 on just about anybody they play this year, short of maybe at Texas and at LSU the way they're playing. But just specifically for Memphis, how many points is it going to take for Memphis to kind of limit Arkansas for them to pull off a potential upset here?
I think Memphis needs 30 points. I think that ought to be the goal. The only catch would be, like, let's just say they do get the run game going, and they're just saying, like, it's going to be like Vanderbilt. You're going to touch the ball twice this quarter, and that's it. And so if you could get in that 27 range or so by limiting possessions, that might be a path. I think Memphis has been they've been a really solid program the last couple of years. So I kind of trust what they did in the portal to turn this around again this year. I just have a hard time seeing them being able to slow down Talon Green. So it gets me back to they're probably going to have to shoot for 30 on Saturday to try and win this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think unless they're turning the ball over, Stephen, I think Arkansas is going to score every time they touch it.
I think that could be a very real possibility this week, which if that's the case, 34 points is not enough, right?
Right. So one more time, what was your score?
I went 34-27. basically giving Memphis some credit for being able to run the ball, but Arkansas just outscores them.
Even that is too close for me, though.
we gotta have a good game in that first window. The schedule's too kind of crowded afternoon and evenings. Give me a good game in the morning.
I'm telling you, Arkansas fans will throw a fit if that's the final score, but you might be right.
Man, Arkansas fans, they need something good after last week.
Yep.
With that close loss to Ole Miss. So, man, maybe this week they just take out the frustration on Memphis and it's easy win.
Hey, shout out General's Booty. What a name. I'm just reading the comments here. I don't agree with this. Jackson Arnold, not a stronghold. Should be working at McDonald's. Sooners by 50. I think every Auburn fan would tell you. Of course, they were already out on old Peyton Thorne. But he has been a massive upgrade for them, for Auburn, and just his efficiency running that offense. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would. I think I have went into the season wondering what we would see from Jackson Arnold just based upon everything that transpired at Oklahoma last year. But I think you mentioned it. I mean, he's taking care of the ball with 0 interceptions. His rushing in the Baylor victory was huge. I think we still need to see him as a passer, kind of what happens in SEC play. So there's still some remaining questions, but no question, he's been a key part of what Auburn has done so far, and a big reason to think that maybe they got a chance on Saturday if he plays well. I'm sure the reception from the Oklahoma fans is going to be quite frosty, as that comment indicated there.
Right, and I don't know how much stock you put into this, but there's not going to be anyone more motivated, I don't believe, than Jackson Arnold in that football game. So take that for what it's worth, and also take it for what it's worth that Cole Patrick joined the YouTube. He became an official cousin. We appreciate you, Cole. Welcome to
the family.
Yeah, shout out, Cole. We appreciate you, buddy. Hopefully you're not a Jackson Arnold hater like Steven over here. Just kidding.
He's a hard quarterback to figure out coming into the season, and I don't think I took any. Well, I did take him to take a 1 interception this week, right? So I guess I was a little bit hating on him this week.
Hey, and shout out Johnny Delgado, $10. I have to get this out, Mike. I'm out on Shane Beamer. Get him the hell out. I'd rather have cousin Shane coaching this. What a waste of top tier talent. Cousin JR, help me pay for the buyout. Oh, buddy. Yeah, we'll get to. I'm saving South Carolina, Missouri because it's a conference game. But do you? What's your thoughts on that, Stephen? Is Shane Beamer screwing it up? And if he is, well, he can. He's got a nice landing spot at Virginia Tech. But what's your thoughts on the job Shane Beamer's doing thus far this year?
Man, how fast things change. I mean, he was just nearly took South Carolina to the playoff last year, and they were kind of a preseason contender for that spot. I mean, I'll be honest, I have not loved his offensive coordinator hires. And maybe that's a credit to him for finding ways to have, an 8-win season, a 9-win season, despite some pretty bad coordinator hires so far. I think the jury's still very much out on Mike Shula, too. I have not been impressed so far this year. Now, of course, it hurts when Lenora Sellers is injured. You have some other questions. So I'm not out on Shane Beamer doing a good job this year. We've seen this team salvage down the stretch. I still think they can make something of this season. It is interesting, though, to read that comment and see the Virginia Tech job open and see what happens the rest of the way. I don't think I personally don't think that Virginia Tech is a better job than South Carolina. So would be curious, if this season does go maybe to 6-6, 5-7, would that change his opinion?
Especially if Sellers says, "Hey, I'm out of here." You know what?
Yeah, I mean that's the hard thing about some of these coaches is it's like you almost have to cash out before you get fired. Now, if you get fired, FBS coach buyout life is pretty nice. But if you can kind of almost parlay your success into a second big time payday before you get fired, and it gets harder to get back to the power conference level. So 6-6 with no Lenora Sellers next year, it might get a little interesting then.
Oh, and man, I really meant to bring this up on the last episode. I want to throw it your way because I know you like Brad Powers too. He's been on the show. We appreciate all his work. He predicted last night that South Carolina is not making a bowl game. What's your reaction to that? And so I assume I haven't heard or anything. I just saw his tweet. I assume he thinks that South Carolina is losing to Missouri, but we haven't got to your prediction yet on that. But is there maybe a 0 to 100% chance? What percentage today would you give South Carolina of making a bowl game?
I would still set the odds pretty high.
Yeah.
Maybe like 60% right now, because I think Kentucky, Coastal Carolina,
Right.
definite victories. So you're at 4, you got to find 2. I like them to beat Clemson. That's 5. I think they steal an SEC game somewhere, especially if Lenore Sellers is 100%. You get Oklahoma, you get Alabama at home. We've seen South Carolina pick off high-ranked teams at home before. So I still think they get there. It may be closer to 6-6, maybe 7-5, a lot closer than we thought in the preseason.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, I say it every year, and it just becomes true. Carolina starts slow. I don't know why, but they heat up at the tail end too. So 3 weeks into the season, well, technically 4. I ain't bailing on the Gamecocks, not yet.
I think this has been like at least like 2 instances of this team really. I mean, last year was the perfect example of where, sitting there was 3-3, kind of like, where is this going? They figured it out down the stretch. And given the questions, I mean, when you have some offensive line turnover, I always think that takes time to find the right mix, and you're still figuring out receivers. There's still a lot of potential here. It feels like the lift to get to 6 wins is going to require an upset, maybe even 2.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, how about this one, Steven? I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on old Tulane at Ole Miss. Mighty Ole Miss, number 13 in the country. The Rebels favored by 11.5. The over-under 61.5 total points. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on ESPN. Battle of what SEC coach versus a future SEC coach? Lane Kiffin, John Summerall. Who do you see winning this one?
I can't wait for the message board post that says John Summerall was scouting, future housing in Oxford in case Lane Kiffin is the next, Florida coach or whatever. I'm sure we'll see some of that out there. Tulane is good. I think that's the danger for Ole Miss. They've already picked off Northwestern. They picked off Duke last week. Those were at home, though. This is a road game. Ole Miss is much better than both of those teams. So the challenge is a lot different for Tulane here. They're a dangerous team because they have a good quarterback. Jake Retzloff can hurt you through the air, but he's also been doing a lot of damage on the ground. And Tulane's rushing attack is probably the group that would concern me the most if I'm Ole Miss. They've got a good stable of running backs. So you add in mobile quarterback, plus what they can do on the ground, plus while their defense has not been great so far this year, this is a group that's got a lot of talent up front. And so I think they could create some problems for that Ole Miss offensive line. They are currently 100th in the country in success rate on defense. Not great considering they played South Alabama and a Duke offense that's still finding its way early in the season. So I say that to say, if this game was in New Orleans, I'd be a little bit more worried if I was Ole Miss, kind of like how the last game was. I think this game in Oxford is Ole Miss taking control early. Fascinated to see whether it's Chambliss or Austin Simmons. Great test for the Ole Miss defense too. Give me Ole Miss 34, Tulane with the backdoor cover to get to 24. So 34-24 Rebels.
Gotcha. Any chance though that again, Chambliss, we can sit here and make fun of Arkansas defense all we want, but that even though they have been really bad, and I think they're the worst defense in the conference, they should be on paper significantly more talented than Tulane's defense. Even though I know John Summerall's a really good coach, but the fact that Tulane's now got film on this guy does that help them at all? Because I don't know if you heard this story. Maybe I heard it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. Where maybe it was on a broadcast or something where I guess the Ole Miss coaches found Trinidad and they were basically had to go to social media to find footage on the guy. Like they're like, who's this guy? Where do we get his film? Like there just wasn't much out there. Now clearly they saw something on him, otherwise they wouldn't have brought him in. But I don't know if Tulane saw the same social media clip. So now that they have a read on this guy, could that be any advantage to Tulane and Coach Summerall's defense?
I think it will. I think certainly having a full game of snaps to evaluate as opposed to maybe what he did at Ferris State and also maybe some limited time. I think it's also kind of telling, like if you have one game of snaps, you can pick up maybe on trends or something different they're doing from Simmons to Chambliss. So I think it's really valuable for Tulane. I also think too, Mike Keywan Lacey was way too quiet last week. Tulane gave up 190 rushing yards to South Alabama and 139 to Duke last week. So maybe Chambliss this week isn't the story. Maybe it's Keywan Lacey bouncing back after kind of a quiet performance against Arkansas.
Right. Well, again, I think that goes back to Arkansas selling out against the run.
Yeah.
And forcing Chambliss to beat them. But yeah, point taken. I would imagine Tulane's going to have the same blueprint, but we'll see how much success they have. Well, speaking of success, Stephen, we ain't seen a lot from Florida, but we need to see it on Saturday. Come on, Gators. On the road at number 4, Miami. The Hurricanes favored by 7.5 points. Over under 51.5 total points. 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ABC. Who do you like in this rivalry showdown?
Interesting game here, Mike. You wonder a bit with the off week if it could be Billy Napier's last stand, if this goes south. Credit to him, Florida has not given up on the season. And I think as long as they don't get blown out, that's probably good for his employment for a few more weeks. But I think looking at this matchup, and we kind of talked about this earlier, there's some belief that Miami's maybe better than LSU. And like I said, I'm not there yet, but I think that's the challenge here for Florida is if they're not better than LSU, they're right up there. Certainly from an offensive perspective, Miami has been better than LSU this season. They've got a good stable of running backs. Their offensive line is one of the best in the country. Carson Beck is playing well, and some of the transfers plus freshmen at receiver have been good. So offensively, they've been better than LSU. Defensively, I don't think they're as good as LSU. Certainly up front, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, their 2 defensive linemen will create a lot of havoc. And that's a problem for Florida because I don't think their offensive line has played up to its potential this season. So Miami's defense was awful last year. It's better this year. It is still vulnerable to big plays in the passing game. So there's some opportunity here for DJ Lagway to bounce back. Jaden Ball's got to get going too, but Miami shut down Notre Dame's rushing attack in week 1. They bullied a very good Notre Dame offensive line around. This is I keep want to talk myself into Florida's going to play better. They're going to rally after last week's performance. I'm having a hard time getting there. I'm going to take the Canes. Yeah,
they're this close. So.
Yeah, inches. Yeah. Miami 31, Florida 20.
31-20. Man, that would not be a good showing for this rivalry. They need to play this damn game a lot more than they used to. When I got the Winsipedia here, they seemingly every year they used to play it, and it's been very sporadic to say the least in recent seasons. But I know that's got nothing to do with this game. But I don't know, Stephen. I mean, to me, I get it. On paper, Miami's the team. Yeah, Miami's awesome. Yeah, they stuffed Notre Dame in a locker and South Florida and all these teams. But I don't know. I think Is there something to be said for Florida, though, where their back's against the wall? And I know you'd prefer playing at home, but sometimes, Steven, believe it or not, we've been watching this game long enough where when things are going bad, when the natives are restless and Billy needs to get the hell out of here, and can we get Kiffin? Can we get Saban? Can we get Dan Lanning? All these ridiculous commentary. Sometimes it's good to get out of town and just go on the road. It's us against the world. And it's not like they're walking into a hostile environment. If Miami was in the SEC, I would probably rate it as the 17th best home field advantage. I mean, it's piss poor down there. Now, again, they'll get up for a game like this, but it's nothing. Florida won't be it compared to last week going to Death Valley, the real Death Valley. This is nothing. So I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself into Florida here, but I mean, am I making any sense to where I think this will be a close game?
So I think in terms of environment, I do wonder how many Florida fans will be down there too, because a lot of times Miami will fill the stadium when they're playing like Florida State or Notre Dame. And, a big time atmosphere also is helped by the opposing fan base filling the stadium too. So I suspect, Florida fans might travel well here. So I think to your point, there's all the noise about the team and, Napier's future and the slow start and Lagway's performance last week, and just getting away from all that to where if things go bad at home, you're not getting booed. There's no Fire Billy chance. You're on the road. You got a chance to kind of block that all out and try to go on the road and get a victory. So I definitely kind of see maybe there's something to that. My only thing is, like, I thought this would happen out of Florida last week. I kept thinking, like, they're going to bounce back after South Florida. They're going to play well. And,
well,
granted,
it kind of did, aside from 5 passes.
Yeah, I guess you could say, well, they only lost by 10 at LSU. And, they stuffed LSU's offense. But, I mean, it's like maybe it's the second week that it's not the week after the loss. It's the second one. So I tried to talk myself into it, but I just can't get there. I had to go with Miami.
I think Florida was just looking ahead to Miami. That's what it was.
There you go. Maybe they think Miami's a better team than LSU, right?
Right. And then speaking of look ahead, all right, let's get into the SEC action where it just means more, Steven. How about South Carolina at Missouri? Last week, well, I think Missouri was ranked too, but last week, Carolina was like number 11, I think, in one poll. They ain't even ranked anymore. South Carolina at number 23, Missouri. The line keeps changing. I'm going to check it as we're speaking here because it seems like it's changing by the minute here. I have it as 11.5. Missouri's favored. And no, right now it's down to 9. So I literally just checked it this morning. So it's all over the map. Currently 9.5 as of recording. Over and under 47.5 total points. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN. And the latest from Mr. Pete Thamel. I'm going to read this. Stephen referenced it off air, I think. I can't remember if it was on or off air, but according to Pete Thamel, there is optimism around the status of South Carolina quarterback Lenore Sellers for Missouri. He's been in practice, and there's positive signs for his availability. So take that for what it's worth. I say all that to cede the floor to you, Stephen. Who do you like? South Carolina at Missouri.
Does that injury report remind you at all of Austin Simmons last week?
The
wording of it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see if he's even on the injury report because I don't know if it's an injury report or availability report. We have changed the definitions of injuries in the Southeastern Conference thanks to Lane Kiffin, who, I could just go on a different tangent there. But I think it is different because I believe Sellers is a significantly different injury than Simmons, if that makes sense.
It does. I think what I'm worried about here, and this is a hard game to kind of project because of this, is I wonder if availability doesn't necessarily mean starting. But I'll take that optimism on South Carolina, just in the hopes that we get Lenore Sellers playing in this game and that it should be one of the more intriguing matchups, like to see Sellers and Perbula trading punches for 4 quarters on the same field. That should be a pretty good game here. So I hope Sellers is out there. He's 100%, and we get a chance to see this battle, which I think gets to kind of at the heart of this game is like, if Lenora Sellers plays, 10, 11 points is probably too much. Now, granted, I don't know, haven't really seen a whole lot out of South Carolina the last 2 weeks to make me think they can cover. The other side of that is if he doesn't play, what do you do if you're South Carolina, and how do you win this game? And then I think you get a conversation going of how can you be creative? Like Luke Doty having a week of starting reps, if he's the starter, will help. But you're going to need something on special teams. You're probably going to need something on defense, a couple takeaways. I do think Dylan Stewart could create some havoc here because Missouri's offensive line we've seen has been vulnerable at times to the pass rush. So I think that that's your formula for South Carolina. You're going to have to get creative, win a lower scoring game, score on special teams. That's a lot to ask. And so I think even that, or if Sellers plays, I like Missouri. The question is what the score is going to be, because that's the hard part. It kind of hinges on if Sellers plays or not. So I am going to take Missouri 31, South Carolina 20, and kind of guess that Sellers plays.
Well, that might be a sign of progress, Stephen, if South Carolina to score 20 points.
My actual thought was going Missouri 31, South Carolina 13, plus the 7 on the backdoor cover, because I think it's going to be hard either way for South Carolina to win this game.
Right. All right. Now, I asked you, Auburn, Oklahoma, if a team could get exposed. Could Missouri get exposed? And again, they ain't going to like me saying this, Stephen, but Central Arkansas, I mean, come on, get the hell out of here. Louisiana, they were down their quarterback. That team was a joke. Now, you blew the doors off them. That's what you should do. But we don't know how good Kansas is. Kansas may stink. I don't think they do. But is there a chance Missouri's overrated heading into this matchup?
I think you have the right question. I think we're going to find out, because South Carolina is the toughest opponent they face this season. And of course, the caveat here is Lenora Sellers. If he doesn't play, you're talking about a significant drop just in terms of power rating on South Carolina. That line, when it's at 11, 12, 13, makes me think the odds makers do not expect him to play. Now, the fact that it's dropping makes me think there's probably some action on South Carolina coming in thinking that he's going to be available on Saturday, which I think gets at kind of the heart of your question is it's the toughest test Missouri has faced this year. And Lenora Sellers could play. He could get hot. He could expose some things Missouri's defense maybe hasn't been able to show in the first couple games, maybe offensively too. If Dylan Stewart gets after Perbula, maybe they struggle passing the ball, too much pressure on him. So I think that's one of the things I'm looking for is we've seen a lot of teams like Missouri that haven't really been tested early in the season. They may be as good as we think. And it's not just Missouri. There are others across college football. But I want to find out more in week 4 and 5 and see just how good they are.
Liquid, I like this. Anything's possible. It's the SEC. Probable? Nah.
Yeah.
Well said. All right.
I think Missouri's pretty darn good. That's for sure.
Last game. Big game, Stephen. Hopefully the game of the week in the SEC. Always love when these big games live up to the hype. Number 22, Auburn at number 11, Oklahoma, SEC Nation, ABC, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. The Sooners favored by 6.5 points, over under 47.5. 2 undefeateds facing off in Norman. 2 of the proudest, best programs in the country, Stephen. Auburn's never beat Oklahoma. Of course, they don't really play till now. But thoughts on this matchup and who's winning it?
Mike, last year's game was great. The ending was, at least. So I hope we get another crazy finish or game between Auburn and Oklahoma. And I think back to the offseason, and of course, it's the Jackson Arnold Bowl. There's also so much riding on these two teams. And we talk about like which team could get exposed and this and that. In the preseason, this was one of those games early in the year, SEC play. Opening up SEC play with this game, considering the quarterbacks, considering we considered both of these teams kind of wild card potential, maybe to go make a playoff run if things played out. There's a lot at stake. A lot of narratives are going to be set here. So I think putting kind of the off field kind of narratives aside here, and it's super basic, but the quarterbacks in this game are fascinating because Mateer passed the test against Michigan. He's looked great all season. Auburn's secondary has looked vulnerable. They have played Baylor, which is a really good passing team. So I think a little bit of acknowledgement that some of that is Baylor and not necessarily Auburn. For Oklahoma, we came into the season wondering just how good their corners are going to be. And their defensive line is great, but there was some question in the preseason about their corners. We'll find out on Saturday because Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman, Jackson Arnold, if he can be efficient in the passing game, he will test this group. These two teams are going to go kind of as the quarterback goes. And Singleton and Coleman are way better than anything Michigan had a couple weeks ago. So if you want to talk about like maybe something that gets exposed, I think we'll find out just how good Oklahoma's secondary is on Saturday. I say all that not to say like these teams are bad. I just say like relative to power rankings, trying to figure out kind of how good they are. I wonder too about the battle in the trenches because I think Oklahoma's defensive line, I think, is one of the best in the country, if not the best. And going up against Auburn's offensive line, which has had some pass protection issues at times. You say the same thing about Oklahoma. Has this group turned a corner the last two games? Torrey Blaylock looked good last week. Can you get some balance there? And there's a lot on the quarterbacks. So that's kind of where I ended up on this game is there's a lot on the two quarterbacks. So what supporting cast is going to come through more here? Is it Oklahoma's defense? Is it Auburn's defense? Or is it one of the skill players? Like, does Oklahoma do enough on the ground or does Auburn's receivers shine? It's in Norman. I like Oklahoma's defense better, and I like John Mateer better right now. Give me the Sooners 24-20 over Auburn.
Ooh, man, a close one. So Auburn to cover, but Oklahoma to win. Let me ask you this, Stephen. Could Auburn win this game throwing, and could Oklahoma win this game rushing? If each of them are forced to do what seemingly they don't want to do, where's your belief in either one of these teams to win it the way they don't necessarily want to?
I would probably have more confidence in Auburn throwing. Would that be fair, I think?
I do, considering, yeah, I all the pieces, going up against Oklahoma secondary. I'm not saying they're weak, but advantage, I think, Auburn's receivers. Whereas I think Auburn, their front is pretty good and may have the advantage over Oklahoma's offensive line.
I think for Oklahoma's rushing attack, I like the trend line. We saw this in the Michigan game, like when they needed to get some yards kind of late. We saw it against Temple. Now, I don't think Temple's very good. It's that the challenge goes up, significantly. Like Michigan and Auburn's front, they're both probably top 10-ish type defensive fronts in the country. So it's going to be another good challenge here. But I think if you told me Auburn's passing attack or Oklahoma's rushing attack, which one do you have more confidence in to decide a game? I would probably take Arnold, Singleton, and Coleman over Oklahoma's rushing attack right now.
And then how big is it that Oklahoma has lost Troy Everett for the year?
Yeah, that is pretty significant, but I mean, I like the fact they've played a lot of guys up front this season so far, mixing and matching. So they've got some experience and kind of, and I still feel like they may be searching a bit after Michigan, Temple, and I know the injury factor there too, kind of creating a shuffle. So losing a starting center though against a good defensive front or a center that's was gonna play a lot is problematic. That's kind of where Bill Bedenbaugh is going to make his money, right?
How about this comment from Cousin Les? OU has shut down corners. Shut your mouth.
They're good.
Does that even exist anymore, though? I mean, the way football is played and the way offenses are run, the rules shut down against Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton and Malcolm Simmons.
Yeah,
I would be stunned if they shut all them down.
I think there's kind of two thoughts in there. It's like, first of all, like, no, I'm not doubting like Oklahoma's defense is great. Their corners are good, but there's also what you're getting at is they have not played a passing game or a receiver caliber talent like Auburn has. So, which I think, and this kind of gets at like, it's really hard to play corner in college football right now. I mean, the passing games, tempo, the rules are designed to benefit the offenses. So all corners are going to give up yards and they're going to give up touchdowns. It's super hard to be a lockdown guy here. So, for all the talk that we heard in the preseason about trying to figure out, Oklahoma feels great about this, and this, maybe some corner depth. That's the one area, and I think we just haven't seen them play the receiver caliber talent like Auburn has on Saturday.
And hey, all in good fun, right? But shout out Les again. Everett was a backup. He was a captain. He started the opener. Didn't even need him. He's garbage. The captain's the backup. Like, what the hell are we doing here? Let's take the blinders off for half a second, if possible.
Well, you don't want to lose any offensive line depth in the SEC. A guy, like we said, a guy who could start or play a lot of snaps, which is kind of what I was getting at, is that you don't want to lose somebody on your offensive line, because what happens if the other center gets hurt? What happens if a guard gets hurt? He's going to have depth. I mean, this was a problem for Oklahoma all last season.
Next comment, Mateer overrated. Hawkins is the best backup in the country. We don't even need him. Oh, buddy. Okay, so, hey, we've made it this far, Stephen. We got all the picks in. Which is your John Mateer lock of the week?
My John Mateer 5-star Venmo lock of the week. Give me Miami.
Oh, that's painful, Stephen.
I got Texas A&M right, though, last week, so we finally got one this season.
Damn, so you're not too optimistic on Billy and the boys, it sounds like.
I'm not too optimistic, but also it's only 7.5, so I could kind of see 8 to 10 points. And also, I'll be honest with you, I have a hard time picking the South Carolina Missouri game because of the Sellers injury. Right. I also considered Mississippi State. I just think they could just bulldoze Northern Illinois. But at 21.5, those always make me nervous because of the backdoor cover.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if it plays out the way you predicted it, all the games this weekend, what's the biggest storyline in the SEC come Sunday?
I hate to be boring, but we'll start with the first one, which is, how much longer is Billy Napier the coach?
Yeah.
Because at 1-3, and looking at the schedule, I know they dug out of it. Sorry, Liquid. I know they dug out of it last year, but it's hard to see them doing it again. I think the second thing would be more respect for Oklahoma. And perhaps if they win this game, Mateer is already the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. I think he could start to increase that lead, especially if he plays really well on Saturday. So I think Oklahoma would have more respect. And then I think Missouri. I don't think not a lot of people are talking about Missouri, but if they beat South Carolina bad, with Sellers or without him, this team's probably going to start getting a little bit more buzz in the rankings. Some people are going to discover how favorable their schedule is after sleeping on that conversation all offseason. So I think Missouri can maybe start to get some more buzz if this game plays out like that.
Let me ask you about Florida, though, because Shane and I got in an argument on this. He thinks Billy Napier could be fired too. I just know the way they run it down there. They're not quick to pull that trigger, particularly Scott Strickland, because his ass on the line too. I know he just got an extension, but if he's firing on yet another football coach. But also, Stephen, do you consider the redshirt rule and all that goes into that? Hell, if they fire Napier on Sunday, then literally every one of their players could sit out and reserve a red shirt. I think that would be into play as well. Do you think that would factor into Florida's decision at all?
I do, because as bad, and I think this plays into it too, Virginia Tech and UCLA were disasters. UCLA got steamrolled by New Mexico in the Rose Bowl. Virginia Tech let Old Dominion walk all over them in the first half and ended up winning 45-26. It's a little different despite the noise if you lose like 30-20 to Miami. And I think so outside of just a total disaster, I'd be surprised if he was fired on Sunday. And I also think you keep into account, number one, he is the offensive coordinator, play caller. So you'd have to shuffle even more responsibilities. And the portal, redshirt plus portal. If you keep this going a little bit longer, you're not just going to trash your entire season.
Well, maybe if they could just fire Billy as the offensive coordinator, I think that would solve a lot of the issues.
I think that's the last card he has to play, right? I mean, that's like the only move that you could really make at this point would be to remove yourself as the play caller and just concentrate on head coaching duties for the remainder of the season.
But he's not considering that, so he may have to start. Otherwise, he may be without a job here soon. You know what?
It's too bad that Dan Enos is over at Wake Forest now. He might answer some angry Florida fans' emails.
Maybe we could email him some plays, huh?
Right. Maybe we could email him what's wrong with Florida's offense since he was there last year.
All right. Hey, anything else, Stephen, before we hop off? I appreciate you joining us and making all these predictions. I know it's not the most exciting slate in the SEC this week on paper, but every time we say that, seemingly, is when we get the wild results. So here's to hoping this weekend is as wild as we can get in the college football season.
100%. That we've only get 12, 13, 14 of these in the regular season. So I always try to just enjoy them and hope that even if it is a dud, it's a weekend with college football and we'll miss it come February. So just hoping we get a great slate of games and can't wait to be on the show Monday, breaking things down. And hopefully the games are as close perhaps as we talked about today.
Yeah, hopefully there's not as much panic as there was on Monday's show. But hey, before you go, Stephen, as always, remind the cousins how to follow you and how to find your work.
Absolutely. You can follow all my work over at athlonsports.com. Follow me over on Twitter at athlonsteven, Stephen L. CFB, over on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. I appreciate it, Stephen. A little heads up to all the cousins out there. Shane had something come up, so he told me to push the mailbag show for an hour. So it'll be 8 Eastern, a little bit later than normal, 7 Central. We got to make way for the celebrity, Mr. Hole in One, Mr. He's probably signing autographs or something out there at the golf course. So 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, an hour later than normal, thanks to the celebrity Cousin Shane. But until then, we will catch you on the next one.
Hey, buddy, this beer's for you, Mike, and Cousin Shane. That SEC podcast loves the Pirate, and the Pirate loves that SEC podcast. Hail State.